Welcome to the Arts and Leadership Podcast by Burt Management. Today, this one is in collaboration with our new podcast, Artificial Impact, which is an initiative that explores how technology and innovation intersect with human potential. Today, I'm very excited to feature Vanessa McNeal, a dynamic speaker, life and leadership coach, accredited holistic wellness practitioner. Vanessa specializes in working with high-achieving professionals who grapple with inner challenges like imposter syndrome, self-doubt, emotional overwhelm. Hi, sign me up for all of those, despite their outward success. Through personalized coaching and dynamic presentations, Vanessa empowers individuals to break free from limiting patterns, achieve clarity, and experience deeper fulfillment. I think what sets her apart is her holistic approach. She addresses root causes rather than surface level challenges, and leveraging over a decade of specialized education, training, and experience to create really lasting transformation for her clients. Vanessa's framework kind of rewires emotional and psychological patterns to help clients unlock their potential, build resilience, and lead with greater confidence. Adding kind of a cutting edge dimension to her work, Vanessa integrates some AI tools to complement her techniques that may also enable her clients to align personal growth with professional success in today's tech-driven world. In this conversation, we'll explore how to overcome some of those internal barriers, master mental and emotional challenges, or at least how Vanessa advises on such, and then leverage innovation to thrive in a rapidly evolving landscape. Let's begin by hearing more about Vanessa's inspiring journey and the passion behind her impactful work. Vanessa, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you've worked with so many professionals battling self-doubt despite their kind of outward success. Can you share a bit about your journey and what inspired you to focus on this work?
Oh, yeah. So I think for me, my work as a coach started in 2020 when I had my own, I would call it a crumbling of self. At that time, speaking for me, so I've been a speaker since 2017, really ended. And I, at that time, realized that there's so much identity that we place around our careers and our achievements. And at that time, none of which was moving forward to me. And so there was this crumbling of who am I if I'm not a speaker, if I'm not showing up in the way that people expect me to. And so this deterioration of what I thought I was started to happen. And then this uncovering process of the truth of who I was also came from that. And so it inspired me to help other people through that, because I believe that all professionals get to a place in their career, their life, where they're like, what's next? Or what filled their cup doesn't fill their cup anymore. And they don't know where to start in that process or what to do. And because I worked myself through that process, that's really what inspired me to start my own coaching practice to really help high achieving professionals get to a place where they're breaking through the stuckness and the imposter syndrome and the doubt, and also like those feelings and thoughts of like, who am I really? And getting to a place of more clarity, fulfillment, and better satisfaction overall in their life.
Yeah, such important work. What do you think kind of causes this overwhelm that then leads to, the imposter syndrome, the burnout? If you could identify a root or two, what would you say?
I think it's really nuanced. For some people, it's a life event in terms of something happened in the workplace or in their life. And I really believe that burnout is just a signal that there's stuck energy and it's not moving forward anymore. And so it's a signal to look within. And then I think on the other side of the dance, they're like long-rooted, deep emotional patterns that we've had since childhood that just show up as we're adults because they're never taken care of. And so I think that comes from that too. So a lot of my clients that come to me, since the time that they were little, it was embedded in them that they had to succeed as their only way to receive love or receive attention or receive praise or this even awareness of who they are. So if you're growing through life and you haven't gone through that, you're going to reach a point somewhere in your life, in your career, where you're saying, I've had this pattern, but it's not working for me anymore. And I think so both of those places can lead to that burnout, self-doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think that is it a buzzword? Is it truly like there's more data on it? Why are we seeing imposter syndrome everywhere? And why does it feel like it's so prevalent right now?
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't think it's a buzzword. I think that as society, we're evolving to talk more about mental health and the challenges that we're facing internally. And so I think it's part of the conversation that's evolving where more people are being able to identify like, yes, I have that experience too. That makes sense for me as well. So I think it's really just the changing of time that's allowing us to talk about these deeply seated beliefs and woundings that we have about ourselves.
Yeah, I love that answer. And I love that truth that people are maybe allowed to be a bit more vulnerable. And also, everyone's online now. So
Yeah,
we're much more connected,
exactly.
which is kind of a good segue into my next question. I'd love to chat a little bit more about the intersection of AI and mental health. How do you see AI tools influencing the way we manage stress or self-doubt in the workplace?
Yes, absolutely. So I see AI tools as not a substitute for traditional mental health practices or resources, but really a supplement to our life. So the way that I use it, the way that I advise my clients to use it is to really think through certain like thought patterns that they're having, because you have like this neutral party, which is the AI tool that's able to assess our thoughts and where they might be coming from and help us think through things. So that's the way that I use it, just a way to put my thoughts out there and then have just more space within to move past them, because I think that we create a lot of stuck points when we're not able to like think through our processes. So I believe that that's one way to use it for the good.
Yeah, that's the way I love to use it, just to brain dump. I also love using it as this like neutral third party, as like a temperature check. Like, am I being totally irrational? Or because sometimes you don't have a person to bounce those kinds
Exactly.
of ideas off of. What are some other practical ways that you think people can use technology to reduce emotional overwhelm rather than add to it, as some tech can do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think of tools like scheduling tools. I know scheduling is uh, a big sticking point for people in terms of how they're managing their life. So I have apps that I'm using that are my scheduling managers. So, I don't have to hire someone to manage my schedule and my time and time blocking and time management. So I believe that that's one really simple yet strategic way to use AI. So I think of like Calendly, even Google Calendars. I think of all of those really simple yet strategic apps that really make my life so much easier, because it takes off a load on me that I don't have to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And those tools are only getting better and better as they're kind
Yeah,
of more automated and self-sufficient.
exactly.
Let's jump into aligning well-being and personal growth. Because of course you can't really have one without the other. What advice would you give to leaders and professionals trying to align personal well-being with ambitious professional goals?
Yeah. I think that it's probably one of the most important things to be able to have alignment around, because I think that what I know about high achievers is that there's a lot of output and very little input in terms of their self-care, in terms of their wellness. And I think that if high achievers understood that the more that they're able to pour into their self, the better that they can show up for the people that they love and care about, and also their businesses or their workplaces.
Yeah.
And so that alignment is everything. And it changes the way that you're thinking. It changes the way that you're believing about yourself and other people in the world. And then I also think it changes the outcomes that inevitably are coming their way. So I think it's taking practical steps daily to be able to take care of yourself in spite of your busy schedule, in spite of your responsibilities. It is the most important thing to take care of yourself.
Yeah. And what do you say to people who maybe feel like they don't have time?
Yeah.
A lot of these busy overachievers, myself included. I mean, my days, including my weekends, are so my calendars are all full. Like, how do you go about coaching and advising people like that?
Yeah, I think the way that I would go back to understanding that is really seeking to understand where in their life they learned that they had to put themselves last, and who initially they learned benefited from those behaviors. Because at one point in their life, or even a recent point in their life, there are other people that are benefiting from you not caring for yourself. And I know that that's like a very deep wound. But if we can solve that wounding and really create healing around that, then people can understand why. Because there's always a reason for our behaviors, whether they're positive or negative. And if we can understand where they're coming from and get to the root cause of them, then we can really change the way that we're moving forward with our patterns. So that's where I would start, is like, where did you learn that it was okay to put yourself last? And where did you learn that it was okay to care for everyone else except for yourself? Who is that benefiting, and why can't you be a priority? So going deep, understanding those questions, because I think a traditional answer would be, you know, that's not true. Just take care of yourself, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
patterns aren't really solved with those traditional ways of thinking. We have to go deeper to understand why they're there in the first place.
I love that. So for someone who's maybe not quite at the level of like burnout, but it's clear that maybe the time management has excluded any ounce of prioritization, too much coffee. How can someone struggling with this take that first step toward a healthier, more balanced approach? So you've kind of gone through where this root comes from. What's kind of that next first step?
I would just say really small and tangible, practical tools that can be embedded in your day, because I think that when we're trying to make changes, we really are tempted to go just all out, and those aren't sustainable. I would start small, taking 5 minutes in between each meeting during the day, and making sure that you're eating, and not just eating your lunch, but tasting your lunch and having some of those basic needs throughout the day met, because I think those are the first things to go. When we're in that stage of like, okay, we're starting to feel burnt out, but not quite there. So making sure that like our daily self-care basic needs are met. And that could just be the breaks, the eating, the checking in with yourself, making sure that you're like present with where you're at. And then just there's so many nervous system tools out there to help self-regulate when we're feeling stressed before or after meetings, or before we pick up kids from work or from school. There's a lot of things that we can do.
Yeah, my cat's going to join this interview today. The perks of working from home. Would you say that there's a lot of common traits in these kind of high achieving people who do still have reservations about their value or their.
Yes. So there are three primary nervous system states. There's dorsal, which is at the very bottom, and that's I would say that that's beyond burnout. That's completely shut down. You're disengaged with yourself, your work, people that you love. It's really a shutdown state. And then there's sympathetic. Sympathetic is typically where high achievers go. And that's typically where they're living most of the time.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And at the very top of that ladder, you have ventral. And that's where we hope to be, which is open, engaged, empowered. But to answer your question, I would say that most high achievers find themselves in sympathetic. And that is go, go, go. That is, there's so much to do, and I have to get it all done right now. And it's very little suggesting of other people taking on any of the responsibilities. It's like very much, I have to do this on my own. I have to do this right now. I mean, there's a lot of energy in that state. It's like you're thinking about work constantly. It's hard to turn work off. You might even wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, or you're checking emails in the middle of the night, or you're waking up first thing in the morning checking emails. It's like very difficult to turn off this constant thought. So yes, a lot of high achievers are productive in that state, but that's not a sustainable state to live in. It's like living in fight or flight.
Yeah.
And so I would say that those are the common traits of high achievers, is living in that sympathetic state where their nervous system is very dysregulated and they're not taking time out for their self or their well-being.
Yeah. And is it a pretty, I know it's like you said before, it's a nuanced process for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
getting them from that sympathetic state to the, tell me again what the top one
That's
was. So is it, I imagine it's pretty emotional getting people there because it would
yeah.
require both, a really hard look and probably stripping away some of
Mm-hmm.
the projects, some of the tasks, and then, like you said, some of the delegation, which I think can translate into realizing you are a poor leader or you've got some skills to learn. Tell me a little bit more about like that transition between those two kind of flights there.
Absolutely. So when you're in sympathetic mode, as I mentioned, there's a lot of energy there. So one of the things that's needed is to slow down. And so it really challenges belief systems of like, I don't have time to slow down. Or if I don't get it done, who will? Or my projects won't be met on time if I'm not going at the speed that I'm going right now. And so there's a lot of limiting beliefs that are met at that state of why can't people slow down? But when you're in that state, because there's so much energy and it's not a sustainable place to live, the first thing that needs to happen is regulation tools that help you slow down. When you're at that state, it's too fast. So it's slowing down how fast you're typing, slowing down how fast you're talking, slowing down how fast you're physically moving. And our nervous system essentially is seeing life through two lenses, and that's either safety or danger. So if you've pressed a sympathetic button, that state feels like it's not safe. So the nervous system decided that the best way to get things done was to go faster. So if you could introduce more ways to feel safe in your life through the way that you're thinking, feeling, being, showing up, that would also help people slow down. Because again, those lower two, sympathetic and dorsal shut down. It's like, I feel unsafe, and the best way I can move forward is to completely shut down. We've all been there at one place or another in our life at some point. And so it's all about introducing safety at that point.
Really?
Psychological safety, emotional safety, and beyond.
Yeah. Sounds so easy. I'm hearing a lot of opportunity for AI as you're describing all of this, especially when it comes to slowing down. I mean, I know I personally, when I've got a long to-do list, I have found ways to kind of give a third of it to AI in some capacity. Are you seeing any like real world examples with your clients where you're able to kind of advise them to attempt to implement this technology? And if so, what's the response? Like, what's the feedback like? Are people open to it?
Yeah. I feel like in my work so far, I haven't used it a ton in terms of help, like saying like this for sure we can give over to AI, but I am sure that there are opportunities out there to be able to do that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'd be excited to see how you might implement some of that,
Definitely.
especially because most high achievers I know are using AI in some way.
Mhm.
And a big part of this artificial impact series that we're doing is kind of looking at the like, almost too obvious, right? They're so simplistic
Yeah.
ways that AI can enrich our lives, enrich our wellness, enrich our
Mhm.
work. And not like thinking about how you're getting your entire team onto an AI infrastructure. It's like, what little things can we do
Oh, yeah.
just to improve our lives and then therefore our productivity? Which if you're like me, or if you're like these high achieving people, they really do go hand in hand. I mean, when you're producing well, you feel good. And when you feel good, you're producing and business is good.
Exactly.
Let's see here. I've got so many good questions, but I feel like we've kind of answered a few of them. This is a really kind of simple question that I don't feel like I've ever heard answered in a way that satisfies me.
Mhm.
How does improving mental health contribute to stronger, more effective leadership?
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that I can see why, knowing you, why someone's answer hasn't satified you yet.
It's
So,
almost like it's always like, duh.
Right.
and I feel like there's so much more
Yeah.
to leading because it's intrapersonal, but then there's also other people involved. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So what you're asking is, ask me again.
Yeah. How does improving mental health contribute to stronger, more effective leadership?
I think that as leaders, it's really important to be able to understand how we are and why we are the way that we are. And if we can do that, and if we can take care of ourselves and our belief systems and the ways that we're showing up, we can only lead people better. And so it does kind of feel like, duh, but it's much more nuanced than that.
I loved the belief systems part there because I think that can be something that, like I've had leaders that I think kind of impose their belief systems that are really just this buildup of some weird fundamental trauma that they probably have. And so, yeah, I think, and I'm obviously still figuring all this out, but I do think mental health, you have to be really grounded in yourself to be a good leader, period. If you, and I think you have to kind of like people a
Right.
little bit, which
Exactly.
I'm learning is a reflection of obviously your internal world. I heard something recently that was like, if you feel like you're someone that doesn't get along with people or like you hate everyone or like you're just one of those people that has a hard time connecting, try just finding interest in someone. Like just take like baby steps. And that little technique has helped me, I think, be a better leader.
Right.
Not like faking it till I make it kind of thing, but just finding like little things that I find interesting about other people.
I love that.
And I kind of feel myself like softening and opening up a bit.
Absolutely.
What's your take on kind of like the relationships that we have with our coworkers and how that affects us as a whole?
Absolutely. Well, I think I like to think of it in terms of like the nervous system state. So, ventral leaders, as a leader, you're up against a lot of challenge, up against a lot of pressure, up against a lot of expectation. And in order to be a leader that is well liked, a leader that is creating success, I love what you said. You have to be grounded and you have to be in that ventral state where when challenges come, when there's resistance, when there's difficult conversations, that you can be balanced and that you could be a safe place for people, that you could be a big picture thinker. And that requires so much inner stability. And so the mental health piece does matter because your outside world is reflected inside of your inside world, and how safe you're feeling within is really projected into all of your relationships. So when you feel safe and grounded and self-aware, other people will feel that. So the relationships feel better, the conversations feel safer. People feel more open with you because you're more open with yourself and how you're relating to other people. So I do think that there's a huge correlation between mental health and how leaders are showing up. And again, it goes back to the more you can take care of yourself, the better you're able to take care of people. And I think a big part of leadership is understanding that like you don't have all of the answers all of the time. And that requires a ton of grace and a lot of humility to be able to admit that and then share that piece with others. And again, that requires a lot of regulation within the nervous system to say, hey, I don't have all the answers. I don't have it all together, but I'm willing to learn from my team and my organization and all of the people around me to be able to get to a place where we're all moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah. Wow. It's like letting people kind of be, right? Not being too forceful. Yeah, that's definitely, there's a lot of balance for me there. Is like, what's the quote? Treating a man as he can be, and he will become that. If you treat a man as he is, he'll kind of stay like that. Just like experiencing the other person's human experience as it is, right? And letting them teach you, I think, is really valuable and has helped me a bit as I saw as a leader and just learn even what it means to be a good leader. What's one lesson that you've learned that's maybe been transformative for you in this coaching journey? Maybe there's
Oh yeah, there's always so many. I think similarly to being a leader, what I find as a coach that a lot of my clients mirror experiences that I've had in the past or currently going through. And so again, it goes back to that nervous system regulation piece. If I can ground into what they're showing up in, then I can be able to help them through what they're going through. And I think that that's what leaders are tasked to do every single day. Because again, I don't have the answers for clients. And I think that this is so big in terms of talking about leadership. You don't always have the answers for people. Their answers are within themselves. But your responsibility is to be a grounded party in their life that's able to reflect back to them what they're saying and what they're feeling, so that they can get to a place of resolution and clarity. And so that's been a really big lesson that it's so funny having clients that have mirrored at some point in my life or another things that I feel like I've mastered, or some clients come and I'm like, wow, that's really fascinating. That's still showing up or orbiting around my space somehow. So we get to learn together. So I think those are really big experiences that I go through as a coach.
Yeah. What's your process in getting grounded with your clients?
Oh, that's really good. So for myself or for us together?
Maybe both.
Yeah.
I'm just so intrigued.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I didn't use this word, but I really don't believe that we can take people to places that we haven't been before. And so the depth in which I can get with myself is the depth in which I can go deep and mirror that to my clients.
Yeah.
So before my clients arrive in my life, I'm going deep within myself. I'm constantly thinking about who I am, why I am the way that I am, what my processes are, what my belief systems are, what's working, what's not. So when people come into my space, taking care of them in the container that I have feels relatively easy, because I know what depth looks like and I know what it feels like because I'm doing that with myself. But grounding looks like before I start a session, I'm sitting alone, I'm clearing my mind, I'm clearing like my energy so that I can really be a vessel for that conversation and the depth in which I need to go. And then taking care of myself after the session looks like really practical things. Like sometimes my clients in the sessions that we have are really emotional, or sometimes they're really challenging, and clients are like, I know that I needed this conversation, but that was really hard. And so when you're in a conversation with someone, you can really feel that. So afterwards, it's me like letting go of the energy and the emotion of that conversation through shaking. I know that sounds really strange and people are going to be like, what is that? So this is a practical tool that people can walk away with. If you think about animals, if you've ever seen a deer get hit by a car and they lived, they're crossing the street, what you're going to see them do is shake their entire body. They're shaking and releasing that energy, that fear that they experienced in that moment so that they're able to move on. And so that's what we can do as humans too. And there's so much research around how effective that is.
Wow.
Being able to release conversations, stressful meetings, stressful events in our life through like literally shaking your whole body. Like just look
Just
on
like doing a
YouTube.
little.
Yeah.
I love
Exactly.
it. Okay.
Full body shake. So I do that. Washing our hands after meetings, after stressful exchanges is another way to release energy. Because I like to think of everything in terms of energy, because it really is. And so those are ways. And then just like deep breathing, sighing, letting sounds come out, because I know that there's a really big difference between feeling something and expressing it. So it's really important that before and after sessions, I'm expressing everything that I need to express to be able to get back to a place of groundedness.
Wow. I feel like I just got a lot from that. That was very helpful.
Good.
I think that our audience will get a lot from that too. I was just listening to something. I think she was a neuroscientist on the Diary of a CEO podcast, but she was talking about a study where people who hum and sing tend to have like higher immunity, which I thought was so fascinating. And I found myself like humming a little bit more lately.
Yes, absolutely.
That's really interesting. And it's like the release of energy and fascinating. What draws you to helping, quote unquote, high performing, high achieving people as opposed to the normal person who doesn't torture themselves and every day?
I think for me, there's a relatability factor. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm a recovering control freak. And so for me, it's that piece of like, I really understand where you're at, and I want to be able to close the gap between where you're at and where you'd like to be, because I know how good it feels to be grounded on the other side, and it's possible. And so I think that there's like this understanding, a deep understanding, because I was there. And then also important, this feels important for me to bring back up what we were just talking about, but the throat is the clearing channel of the body. So that's why the humming, that's why the voicing, how we feel, that's why the expression matters so much, because we clear energy through our throat.
Yeah.
So, but to answer this current question, there's a relatability there, and the work really matters to me.
Yeah. I think your work is very inspiring, and I'm just so
Thank you.
interested in you as a person and your energy and your fervor for helping other people specifically. I think it's really just really cool. I
Thank you.
think that you're such a unique, warm person. Thank you for your time today. I feel like this was a very dynamic chat, though a short and brief chat. I think we could go down rabbit holes on all of this. But I'd love to tell my audience maybe where they could find you if they were curious to learn more about your services or your approach. I know you're on LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn. And then the best way, if you're interested in a coaching consult or learning about how to work with me one-on-one, VanessaMcNeal.com is the best way.
Okay.
And then if you are working for an organization that does lunch and learns or has speaking events that you get to plan, the website as well would be the best place to be able to book me. So I'm talking with individuals and organizations about how to rewire your nervous system, how to look at why you are the way that you are differently, and how to create a different, better workplace culture based on the way that we're all showing up.
I think this is like essential work. Anyone who's watching this, if you've got a team or you've got a boss that needs some work, send them this episode, send them Vanessa's info. She is a gem.
Thank you.
Vanessa, any final thoughts or any like final notes for our high achievers out there who might be needing a little guidance?
Yeah, I think one thing that, I think about often when I'm having these conversations is that it is very unique, because when we're talking about the workplace and performance and being professionals, we don't typically talk about energy and even well-being at times. So just want to validate that some of you might be listening like, I didn't understand how that conversation took a turn in that way. But if you start to notice your state and the way that you're feeling and thinking and how your life starts to shift because of it, you'll get so much insight about why things are the way that they are. And also know that you don't have to stay stuck in a place of suffering. There's so much help out there, and you're not alone in terms of feeling burnt out or stressed or worried. There's a lot going on in the world right now. These are very stressful times, and know that there's a way out of it.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for your work. Again, you can find Vanessa at VanessaMcNeal.com. We'll be sure to link all of her information in the show notes and in the captions here. Vanessa, you're a gem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.